Hey there, this is Amy at Chip Creative, and I have a tutorial for you today. I wanted to show you this little mixed media piece that I had made recently. And basically what I did was I took some recycled cardboard and I gessoed the entire surface and used a little bit of molding paste. And by the way, both the gesso and the molding paste were homemade, and I got some recipes off of YouTube. I added white acrylic paint, just basic white acrylic by Folk Art, with plenty of baking soda. And I also used a medium, an acrylic medium, which is a thinner form of acrylic paint. It thins out and extends the paint, and it also allows it to stay wet longer, and so you have more time to play with it and texturize it. So basically what I did here was I used paint brushes and a foam brush like this one to give it some waves and texture. And then I had found at Michael's, they had in one of their bins for Valentine's Day these hearts, and they all have a different texture, so I experimented with all of these. There are two polka dot textures, one's a little larger than the other. Then there's just straight lines. Really nice look to give it sort of a corrugated cardboard look. Then there are these little divots, looks like a basket weave pattern or some type of lattice pattern. This is that same lattice pattern. They had red, white, pink, and purple hearts, and you got about 20 of them. And if they're still selling them, they're probably really marked down by this time. I think I paid maybe $2 for the entire bag, and there were lots and lots of hearts. And this one is waves. So what I did on top of this was added some acrylic paints, also alcohol ink, and these I just drew shapes of hearts that were roughly the size of these, which I used a stippling tool. I'll show you. Just one of these types of stippling tools while the paste was still wet. And so it gives it a nice subtle effect. Not any of the hearts are complete, but it just gives you kind of an impression of hearts. And then I went ahead and textured in there too. I also added Viva Decor's Inca Gold, and that is a beeswax based metallic rub. I love this stuff, and if you buy a tub of this, I don't know how long it will last, but I would say well over a year, and I use it often. I even bought some of their itty bitty ones, the trial size ones in different colors like bronze, gold, emerald green, and I haven't run out of those either, and I've had them for several months now. And they are so nice to give sort of a vintage, rustic, but metallic look. And I don't know how well that's showing up in the light. I'll try to kind of move it around, but the lighter parts of this are that silver metallic rub. And then you're seeing the alcohol inks in here, and used a little bit of the gold metallic rub inside the hearts. So what I'm going to do today is similar to that, so I can show you how I got the effect. What I did was I took another piece of recycled cardboard. This is from a cereal box. I put down just a layer of black gesso, and this is my texture paste. This is the homemade texture paste. It's very lumpy. I like that because it just gives you all kinds of interesting patterns, just because it's sort of an irregular consistency. And so I'm just going to start to brush this on. I'm going to bring a little bit of the baking soda up to the surface so it tends to settle, and this has been sitting overnight. So we can get a little bit thicker paste here. So as you can see, this is fairly runny, and if you do run into that issue and you want to get thicker paste, all you have to do is add a little more baking soda. But this will be fine for what we're doing today because I also have my heat gun handy, and so the wetness will be taken care of with the heat. Okay, now you're seeing some more of the chunkier pieces coming out. That's just as I continue to stir and bring up more of the baking soda. It'll get a chunkier consistency. And I'm just going to glob on and have fun and just be playful. One of the things that I love about art journaling is that I've learned that you can redo and reconstruct just about anything that you do. I've seen so many artists in their journals, you know, they don't like a section or an entire page, and there are so many ways to tweak it. Like you can just completely cover it up. You can place embellishments over areas. You can put scrapbook paper scraps. I recently found some tulle like you would find in like a wedding dress, that sort of tulle. I found that at the craft store as well, and you know, that sort of thing can be used for texture. So I'm just going to basically make this go a little bit faster. I'm going to start to just really get it on there. Make a big old mess. And the great thing about this Ranger ink craft sheet that's underneath the piece here, I have found so many awesome things about this craft sheet, and now I know why I see it in so many of the videos. It is virtually indestructible and hardly anything sticks to it. I also tested out its heat capacity, and it is high. I had my heat gun pointed directly on a piece that was over the craft sheet that would have melted anything, and the craft sheet completely stayed intact, which amazed me because I have melted other things with my heat tool without meaning to, and they've melted and buckled and cracked, but the Ranger craft sheet really takes heat well, so that's awesome for any type of project really that you're going to be using your heat gun, especially embossing, when you're adding layers of embossing powders, and if you use UT at all, the ultra thick embossing enamel, a lot of times you're using multiple layers and you need to heat it again and again, and the craft sheet withstands all of that heat. So pretty awesome stuff. But on the whole, I'm such a Ranger fan. You'll see a little later when we start applying the alcohol ink some of the beautiful colors that some of the original Tim Holtz Ranger ink colors that are just great. And I saw something that he had added several new colors at CHA Winter 2014, and they're part of the Adirondack line, so that'll be exciting to try those out. Okay, so we've got a good base here. I'm just going to put that bottle off to the side. Now is the time for the heat gun. Be a little bit loud. And what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a cue from Jenny Belly's YouTube channel. She shows a technique of stamping into almost dry gesso. So what we want to do is dry the top layer, but also the layer underneath, but keep it still a little bit wet underneath, so it's still pliant enough that it'll take texture, but it's not so sticky that it'll come back up with whatever you're texturing with, whether it's a stamp or some, a texturing tool or something like this. So instead of having you sit and listen to the heat blowing right now, I'm just going to speed up. And we'll come back to it when it is dry.